So I have to express something. My memory, not that good. Growing up, I can barely actually remember things about growing up, but I depended on something to help me with that, and it was through movies. My mom would ask me, "You remember when you were 12 and you threw up in that restaurant, from eating that food?" And I was thinking, when I was 12, no. And she would say, "That's when that Indiana Jones movie came out." And then I would think, "Oh yeah, I do remember that. I remember throwing up in that restaurant." I would use movies to help me remember different things throughout my life. And I always loved acting. Even when there wasn't captions, I would sit there when I was a kid and I'd be so fascinated with the film. The different lightings, the camera movements, all the different angles and zooms. I just thought it was amazing. It was like all these different pictures with no words. And the pictures, they all came together to make a story. To me, that was so powerful. But I remember one movie that will forever be ingrained in my mind. That's E.T. Raise your hand if you've seen E.T. Pretty much all of you, right? Yeah. But yeah, I think it was the first movie I went to in the theater. It was the first one I remember from being a kid, and I was there with my mom, and I was so excited. And then I remember the beginning of up until the end of the movie, I was in tears. But I remember the opening. It was a scene, it was at night, and there was all these different trees, and then a UFO swarm in, landed, and some creature darted out and just ran. And then the camera would zoom in, and it would focus on a man walking. And it zoomed in closer, and it rose up and showed, something dangling from his belt. You didn't know who the man was, but you just saw that, like a key dangling. But you thought, who is that? He was chasing the creature that ran away down into the city. And then the whole entire story, you remember the part where he's on the bike and E.T. looks like he's dying, and they found him and took him home. They were laying in the bathroom on the floor. He was trying to help him and console him. And then it zooms back outside in the middle of the chaos. And there comes the man. And the camera zooms up, and you see the exact same keys dangling. And the man, I don't know, I didn't know who he was. But the picture from before and the picture there, it was the same man. And you knew that. And then from then on, I knew I wanted to make films. All those pictures coming together to make one story. Doesn't matter if it was, speech or sign. So from then on, I knew that was something I wanted to do. So then I entered into Gallaudet University, and I majored in film. And we had a class with my professor. He just recently died, but he was a hearing professor. And he struggled with sign, but we had many different projects, but one project in particular was our visual expression project. Visual expression, from then on, I thought it was about the film, and the teacher tried to explain, what the project was, and the class was kind of confusing. He said, it's how you express yourself. So I thought, okay, how I express myself. But so he wanted to show us. Remember, he's hearing. It was from when he was at school. And it was a strange video. It was his face. He had no shirt on. And then the camera would zoom out to someone mowing lawn, and then wait a little bit and zoom out to somebody running. And then it would show clouds. And I thought, that was strange. That's a strange way of expressing yourself. But it had music and it had sound. But, he's like, how do you as a deaf class express yourself? And I didn't want to do the same thing as him. But I struggled with that. I couldn't find the words. I didn't know what he wanted from us. But the project, we finished, and the professor said we did good, and that was it. But somehow that stuck with me. So from Gallaudet, I traveled to RIT, and I majored in technology. So, the different parts were, camera, the lenses, the different size lenses, lighting. There were just many different parts to it. And there was one class I had, and it was on the grammar of the film language. So wait, film has a language? You have a language for film? So the teacher gave us a stapled, packet here, and it was like a book. It was thick. There were so many different parts. An example here is close up, medium shot, wide shot. Close up, medium shot, wide shot. So basically the wide shot, it starts the story, it sets up the location where it's at. If there's a tree or a house, and then it zooms into the medium shot, which is just a closer up version. You just have the tree there maybe, and then the guy leaning on the tree. And then the close up, it would be more close by his face, so it can show and emphasize emotion. That's the close up. That's what that focuses on. But there's still many lists beyond that. There's a tilt, the dolly zoom in and out, and then the crane shot that goes up and down. There's just so many different kinds of shots. But there's another one that didn't really match for me, and it was voiceover. So, on the news, you'd see a movie about a boy who he had a poor life. You saw him wobbling around, he's hungry, and the voice told a story, that his parents were gone. But statistics said that we should support him and, give them money to support him. But those are two different stories. One is the sad boy we feel bad for, and the others of the support one, they have a parallel, but they all come together for one. But in deaf film, I don't know. There's just so many different parts. But I'm telling you, that was just one small little section. The story, begins with an opening, and they describe the characters. And then there's conflict, and everything gets worse. And then you have an RV, and they're driving, and it crashes, and there's a lot more conflict, and then it dissolves. It goes away. And there's a happy ending. Well, that's American films. They always have a happy ending. But those are, the rules. We encourage you to follow the rules. But all those rules on that long list, there's so many. But we had a class with a few deaf people, and, we rolled up our sleeves. We saw all the rules, and we wanted to take them and rearrange them, for deaf film. That's when I wanted to make my first deaf film. That was my goal, with deaf signers. So we'd go in and we'd sign out of the screen, and they would say, cut, cut. Your hand went outside of the screen. We got to do it again. And I was like, that was a challenge for me because I didn't want to have to think about, I got to keep my hand inside the screen and have a little signing space. I wanted people for me to sign, and they would believe it. And here's my film. So I have two interesting things to show you. The audience there. Well, I must have been a freshman, so, it was a small camera, and I had so many ideas, but yeah, the audience was like, wow. But I was also, sitting there in the audience, and I was like, I feel like something was left out. It didn't feel natural to me. My deaf world, compared to what that was, it was like a whole different world.